Hello friends, I am Manish Anand. The RiceInAHills.com brings to you a daily analysis of the editorials carried in India's top 5 English newspapers. Let's see how do they have commented on big issues of the day in the country. For 3 days in a row, the social media warriors have been roasting the judiciary, trending unpalatable term for the Supreme Court. The Chief Justice of India, N.V. Ramanna's comments made in the US last week that parties in power and opposition both want the judiciary to endorse them sealed the debate in the wake of sharp observations against Nupur Sharma by the two-judge bench of the Apex Court. Sharma, the suspended BJP spokesperson who earned international ire against her comments on Prophet Muhammad, wanted the Supreme Court to order clubbing several FIRs filed against her across the country and they be moved to Delhi. The Supreme Court wasn't obliging and in place gave her a tongue-lashing. That sets the backdrop for the edits of the Deccan Herald and the Times of India. They are sharply contrasting in their tones and subjects. Deccan Herald essentially lauds the top court for trashing Sharma's plea and serves the consequent outbursts of the judges, while asking that Tista Setalwad was arrested on the basis of the observations of the Apex Court, but the suspended TV face of the BJP isn't yet touched, while claiming that there is a double standard on the part of the enforcement agencies. The Times of India's edit, quite by chance, appears to be a rebuttal of Deccan Herald line of thinking, as the daily shows the mirror to the judiciary and the Supreme Court in particular, asking several questions, including APAC judicial appointments, not following bail, not jail is norm, failing to uphold Article 20/2 against the norms of double jeopardy that subjects persons to numerous proceedings, subjective delay in listing of cases, including the review of the abrogation of Article 370 and so on. That should remind people of Rajkumar's dialogue delivered with elan, saying in the film Govt that those who live in glass houses don't throw stones. Indeed, while reforms have touched all walks of lives, judiciary remains in the bygone era, and rejection of any suggestion of changes which can help transparency and accountability, as had been the case with the National Judicial Appointments Commission Act 2014, doesn't boost the case of the courts. The other subject, friends, is the rising inflation and the crude oil prices, on which the dailies have commented in their editorials. The US President Joe Biden on Sunday in a tweet asked the gas stations in his country not to profiteer, saying there is a war going on in the context of the Russia-Ukraine war. India has acted, though much delayed, against the money sharks, who had been profiteering due to sharp rise in the oil prices, by imposing a windfall tax on the oil refiners and producers. The Economic Times and the Indian Express have come out with edits on Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, waking up quite late in the day, with both the dailies arguing that the June 30 announcement of the imposition of cess on exports of petro products is aimed at keeping the domestic prices in check and in turn calming the furious run of inflation. That is indeed true. Because since April 16, there has been no revision in the petrol and diesel prices in the country, and the government is quite aware that any further increase in the petrol and diesel would further push the inflation up, and that would damage the growth rate of the country. It may be known that the government announced a ₹6 a litre special additional excise duty on export of petrol and air turbine fuel, and rupees 30 per litre on diesel, besides binding refiners that they must commit supply of their half of exports in domestic market, while also slapping a cess of rupees 23,250 per ton cess on domestically produced crude. Friends, there has been a very unfortunate sort of scenario in which some of the refiners, while they had been quite gung-ho in exporting their refined petrol products, they have been keeping their petrol pumps within the country dry. So the government now wants that the crude oil produced within the country, if that is exported, then half of that must be ensured within the domestic market. Friends, Indian Express, by taking into account a 15% duty on import of gold, has slammed the government's decisions, calling them short-termism. The Economic Times, however, adds the caveat that government's move may be preparing the country for further Western sanctions which may be in the pipeline against Russia. Rains bring landslides in fragile terrains. Last year, Uttarakhand reported cases of landslides, and now Manipur is in the midst of a devastating landslide which has already accounted for a death toll of 34 people. So there are reports that the death toll has already risen to 38. And the people who have died mostly belong to the territorial army. Deccan Herald has argued that while 20% of the land mass in the country, particularly in the Himalayas and the Western Ghat, where we have the Nilgiri Hills, is vulnerable, while pinning the blame on unabated deforestation, mining and construction activities in such fragile zones. The Hindu has also in its edit referred to the Manipur landslide, to the construction works of the highways in a fragile zone. Both the dailies have noted that the Geological Survey of India is in an advanced stage to develop an early warning system for landslides, which is being tested in Darjeeling and the Nilgiris, and which will be operational by 2025. Which can provide some relief in disaster management predictions for the government and the local administration. Still, the early warning system will not be a substitute for the mining works in the fragile hilly zones, which is nothing short of suicide by the government agencies, endangering the lives and habitations of the people. The government should be mindful of the fragile ecosystem of the hilly areas and the past incidents of landslides caused by heavy rains and cloud bursts, which have been seen on a very frightening level last year in Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand, in which scores of people lost their lives. There is a time, friends, that the government should realize that the construction works should not be taken up in such zones until a foolproof groundwork is done with the inputs of the Geological Survey and the scientists, besides the environmentalists working in those areas. So friends, this was our editorial analysis for the day. How did you like the analysis? You can share your feedback in your comment, and do request the link of the video with your friends, and please don't forget to subscribe to the channel also. Thank you so much. Have a good day.